Ready? Good morning.
Good morning.
How's everybody doing?
Great.
Well, I appreciate you guys coming today. I know it's a holiday weekend. A lot of people are traveling out of town. For you guys to spend your morning with us, we appreciate it. We have a great training prepared this morning. We got a lot of things going on. We'll do a review class, we'll do orientation. And obviously we'll have general training. But let's get started. We have a few pieces of recognition. Or at least one. We had somebody pass these in and see if they're here. Who recruited this person?
All right, so we had a new test passer, Romy. Met her through a different recruit who came through, Anisha. And she's been doing all the right things. We've already been on a ton of appointments. She's had 3 grand for the month. She's made $1,000 in her first week in Primerica, so we're very excited about her. We're moving fast, man. So give it up for Romy Singh.
So we have special recognition. Actually, we're going to make it a big deal at our big event in 2 weeks. But what a great picture. I don't know if you guys know, but I'm extremely fast too. Like, this is what we're having. Where's Shondell? She knows what I'm talking about. She tried to outrun me one time. Yeah, Shondell's a great soccer player. He literally made one of my recruits quit. I haven't seen him since he destroyed it. You didn't make Kevin quit? Where is he then? Where is he? You heard the pride, ego, all of it. You didn't have to do it like that. Anyways. But Caleb did his sprint district. So let me talk a little bit just about how important this is. Obviously, we're going to make a huge deal at our big event. You're going to walk the stage and get to speak and get, an iPad, all this in front of, 500 people. But most people, when they start, they, obviously they're apprehensive, right? And that's okay. I was like that, right? But for somebody to come in, not know anything about our business, and get off to a fast start, which is bring on 3 teammates, develop 6 clients, and pass the test in 1 month of starting.
Which he took 3 times.
Which he failed twice, okay? So he enjoyed the exam. But, most times, you're studying, and, and to get 6 clients, you didn't just get 6 clients. You probably went on 10 or 12 appointments. To get 3 teammates, you probably invited 5 or 6 people minimum. So you're getting a little tough, and then to fail the test twice.
Then turn left on Grove Street.
Thank you. All right. And we're, sometimes you just need to see, Kelvin sent a message out, and I thought it was very appropriate that sometimes we just need victories like this to let us know that, hey, you know what? Not everybody we hire is a doofus. Okay? Not everybody we hire is scared and nervous, even though I was. There are a lot of people out there that are ready, they're willing, they're persistent, they're perseverant, they have a great attitude, and the kid is always smiling, right? Always smiling. Like, he has such a good attitude of gratitude. No wonder, right? Because success is something you attract, right? A lot of you guys are repelling it. Because with your attitude, you're pushing people away. But, you know, and it's true, right? We always talk about your attitude's everything, man. Most people, they're just negative. They're so smart, they're so wise, they know why everything won't work. Sometimes it's good to be a little naive and stupid.
Yeah.
And you have that. You're very naive and stupid. Hey, we're so proud of you, man. You've been a breath of fresh air for our office coming in. Every time I see you, I get inspired. And nobody deserves this more than you. So our new Sprint District, unbelievable work. All right, so Caleb, I just, want to remind you that at our big event, I mean, you're going to be the belle of the ball. You got to have 25, people there. You got to really pack it out because you're going to be a hero. Okay, so you're getting recognized in front of a $900,000 earner. I don't know how many sprint districts we had, if we had any, but just make sure you pack it out. Right, it's your first event. That can catapult your entire career. So if you're here for orientation, you're here for the first time, you can file some mail back into the other conference room. Let's give our visitors a round of applause. Turnout. Got some people here. We're going to break up for a review session in a minute. Let's see who else people. If you're a district leader or below, that's all the new people, all the unlicensed people, district leaders, and below, stand up real quick. Okay, if you have one person here with you in training or in the orientation room, stay standing. Two, 3, 4, 5, 6. Come in. 6. Everyone 6. All right, let's give it up to you. Division leaders. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10. Let's give it up for Joel. Regional leader, stand up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. How many? 12, 25. Give it for Jennifer Lee. Stand up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. That'll be a shot. 1 class. All right, where's Dante? He's in the office. Okay, will you go grab him? Yeah. Okay, so we're going to do 2 things in training today. Before we split for the, we're going to split, but all right. So review class. All right. So we do class about twice a month, and something we want to run that I've done a poor job of implementing is review class. Okay. So I talked to Ricardo this morning, and he was following up with me throughout the week about. On the opposite weeks of class, we're going to put people in a review class where they're really just going to go over questions. Right? Because he doesn't have enough time during the class after teaching all the material. He's going to do test-taking tips and questions, right, Ricky? Yeah. There's going to be a lot of questions because, something about the test, they just get really nervous when they read those first few questions, right? And, in Virginia used to do this. Their first, like my older sister used to teach this class, right? In the Virginia exam, she would say, don't even read the first question because they always make the first question really hard. Okay? Why? Because the state doesn't want many people to pass the exam. Right? They don't want, this is just an industry, they want to charge people, they want people to take the exam a bunch of times, right? It's just this whole politics, right? And there's barriers to entry to get people licensed. So they don't care if you know 70% of the material. It's a reading test, it's a legible test, and they're tricky questions, right? So I love what Ricky's doing with the review session because he's going to go over the breakdown of the exam, but more importantly, he's going to go through a lot of questions, and none of the following are true, but except all those things, which of the following 2 are true, or, all these things on how to read the question so you're not thrown off, okay? And it will help prepare us for regular class, because regular licensing class is the most important thing that we do. It is the most important thing that we do, licensing class. 100 licensed people, $200,000 income. Overrides, passive income. I would be absolutely insane about that number. Well, I can't get one person licensed. Okay, but you still have to have a goal that maybe you can get 5 or 10 people that want to build a group of 5 or 10 people. $200,000 a year income. Passive. So if you're here for the review class, anybody that's unlicensed, you can follow Ricky. You guys got the office set up?
Yeah, it's set up.
Okay,
You
awesome.
might need more chairs, but right now it's fine.
Okay. All right, so anybody unlicensed, follow Ricardo back in the conference room. Let's give these guys a round of applause.
Yeah, I haven't either. Are you worried you're gonna fall out? Has that ever actually happened?
All right. So for training today, we're gonna do two parts. The first one, we're gonna do investments, and we're gonna do concepts. Okay? Explaining basic concepts among two clients. Okay? And always remember, there's two sides of our business. There's one, understanding it, and then two, communicating it. Okay? So understanding the concepts, I think a lot of people do understand. Right? Like we're going to go over one concept in particular today, one of a few, but dollar cost averaging. Right? I think people get dollar cost averaging. I think they understand. But explaining that to a client is where, if you do a poor job, you could confuse the client. And always remember, confused clients don't go ahead. They stall. They don't write checks. They don't sign paperwork. And so if you can explain the concepts properly, simply, it reduces the client's fear, it makes them more comfortable, and good things happen. And so Dante's going to do some securities. You know, Dante is the guy that made 10 grand in one night this month. So I know he's going to have a breakout month, and breakout quarter, and a breakout year. Let's give it up, RVP. Dante Williams.
The reality is we are really in the right place, the right time, and especially with the right company. And I say that because I was on the thought, this is kind of leading into securities, investing, and who we really help. So I was sitting down, well actually I got a phone call the other day, it was actually an email, somebody connected me with, I guess a recruiter, right? And isn't that funny? Other people are recruiting, but we're kind of shy about it sometimes. So it was a recruiter that was recruiting financial advisors, right? So they sent me an email, the mutual contact that we had. So yeah, I'm open to having a conversation. I like to hear how other people communicate, what they say, what they're looking for, and that way I can use it too, right? So he gave me a call after I said, yeah, you can reach out to me. I'm open to hearing. So it was a company called Allied Bernstein. Anybody familiar with them? Yeah. So they're a wealth management company, right? And they're open to they're only accepting people that have at least $1 million, right? So he's recruiting in specific markets. So DC is one of them. He's actually calling me from Philly. So because I was up there, so I had a lot of contacts. So that's why I was like, oh, I know somebody in DC. So they're looking for somebody that has at least $1 million. And the other thing that they said is the main thing that they're looking for as far as activity is somebody that's just going to get in front of 15 people a week, right? And the reason why they said that is because the assets would come if they do the activity, if they get in front of people. And every single week we talk about what? Setting appointments, getting in front of people, because if we do that, then the clients are going to come. We can't be in front of people communicating the message that we're communicating and not get results, right? See, they weren't concerned about are you getting the assets? They knew the assets would come if you did 15 appointments a week and 15 meetings, however they do it. I don't know their whole system yet. Or I just don't know their system. So that was one thing. The clients that they're bringing in, and the activity is the main thing that they're even talking about. You just do 15 a week. And I said, well, what are you really looking for? They said, we're looking, it's funny, they said they're looking to be more diverse, right? And the reason why they were looking to be more diverse is because the demographics of the country is changing, right? The country is starting to look a little bit more like this, right? But what was the name? Allied and what? Bernstein. So Bernstein is what? Jewish, right? And they have a lot of Caucasians, probably is the only group of people that they help in general, right? But what they understand is that there's more people that have money than just that demographic. So to be able to tap into that, they wanted to be more diverse. And what do we have? The diversity already, right? We just need to get bigger. We have, so when I say diverse, they're looking for minority groups, which includes women, right? So they're looking for women, they're looking for other minorities to come in, so that they can actually tap into those markets. And I said, well, how would it work if I, you know, I think about it, I've had one client that I brought in that had $1 million in all the years that so how would I even go about just prospecting for, you know, $1 million clients if that's the only thing only people I can even help? And this is something that, you know, I'm trying to learn so I can apply it too. They said, well, you have to kind of network in areas that you're passionate about, right? And he gave me an example. He said, well, if somebody had a family member that had some kind of illness, you prospected maybe those charity groups, right? Not prospect, but you're in those groups, you're in those meetings, you're in those events. And when you're in those events, you know, maybe you have a child that had some kind of illness, but you're in those events that are raising money for that. Maybe somebody that has a bunch of money is also participating in those type of groups. And then now you're rubbing shoulders with them, and now you can get different meetings. He gave another example. He said that another African American that came on board with the company, it's funny though, you know, he said that he wants to help different demographics as far as African Americans. So he's going to different, you know, HBCUs and trying to get them. So that's how he was doing it. And, you know, so I thought that was interesting because the minority groups that they're targeting are a lot of institutions, which is cool, which is fine. But what about people that are even trying to get there, right? If they can't even get access without $1 million, then, you know, it's going to be a challenge. Through our volume, we can do a much better job of doing what they're trying to do. I think is how I thought about that. So, but I thought that was interesting when I talked to them, and it kind of applies a little bit to the concepts that we teach, the general concepts, because we're helping people get to a point where they can have a lot of assets and be able to retire. So today what I was just going to go over is just some basic concepts, things that we teach, but we don't, and it really just depends on the person, how often or how detailed we get into some of these things, but it's always great to understand these fundamentals yourself. And like Shaq said, you can communicate these things to people. So we'll go ahead. Are you going to do this, Thomas? The slides? Or do I have it?
Should be good.
Right.
Thanks, guys.
So I just did a combination of a couple slides that are on Download Center on Primerica Online. So the first concept that we talk about is, you know, paying yourself first. So when we say pay yourself first, what does that mean? Well, we have income coming into our house, and there's money going out, right? So what's the money going out? The money going out could be towards our expenses, which could be rent, which could be food, which could be gas, which could be utilities, it could be debt. All these are also money going out, right? But the concept of paying yourself first means you want to give yourself whatever money into your investment accounts before you pay all these other expenses. Well, why is that important? Because it's all about mentality. It's all about mindset. Think about this. If you don't pay your debt, if you don't pay your bills, what's going to happen? Okay, late fees. What else?
Take your stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, they're going to take your stuff, right? What else?
They're charging interest on it.
Interest. So interest, late fees. You could lose it. You may start to get phone calls. You're going to get harassed, right? So if we don't pay our bills and our expenses, then all of those things are going to happen, which is going to what? Force us to pay it. But if you don't pay yourself, what happens? Does anything happen if you don't pay yourself?
No.
Nothing happens. I mean, we're not going to get the result, but do any of those negative consequences happen right now? No. Is anybody going to call us and say, hey, you didn't put money into your investment account? No. Is anything going to get taken away if you didn't put money into your investment account? No. So none of those things are going to happen if you don't pay yourself first. That's why it's critical to do that first. Mm-hmm. Because all of those other things that we need to pay are going to force us to pay, but nothing is going to force us to pay ourselves first. Mm-hmm. So, okay, so now we set that money aside for ourselves. And we don't have enough for the other expenses. It's going to put a healthy pressure on us to find that money. How? We're going to make more money. We're going to prospect. We're going to set appointments. We're going to go out there and make enough money so that pressure is not on us from all those external places, all those external factors. See, that's the concept of paying yourself first, is you have to do that because nobody's going to force you to do it. And all of those other things where there may be a shortfall now are going to pressure you to find the money, to make the money, to do whatever you need to do, but you've already paid yourself first. Does that make sense? So that's the concept of paying yourself first and what it really means. Now, when we do that, there's different places that we want to set that money aside. So we want to have an emergency fund. So we talk about getting an emergency fund because when we have an emergency fund, we're not going to tap into our longer term accounts. When there's an emergency that comes up. Emergencies happen. Has anybody ever had a real emergency? I know we hear emergencies so often when we're setting appointments and setting up interviews. It's like every day, somebody's mom's dying, grandmom's dying, and all these things are happening. But real emergencies actually happen where you may need some money. So you want to build up to where you have, on the low end, 3 months, but if you're a little bit more conservative, you can even have up to 6 months of your monthly expenses. So what happens is, when that real emergency happens that requires some cash, we pull money from this, right? So let's say our expenses were $3,000 a month. So if we had $9, $10 grand, and there's a $5,000 event that happens that we need cash, well, we pull money from this. And then what do? We just pay that back to where we get back up to that 10 grand, let's say. Instead of what? Getting into debt. Instead of what? Pulling out money from our long term, which is going to have a greater consequence than just pulling money from this cash account, basically, is what it is a lot of times. Just a cash account. Could be a money market, could be a, very low volatility bond, like a municipal maybe. Could be something like that, maybe get 1, 2, 3%. But the point is, this is where you're going to pull that money back out from. So what else? So the emergencies, uncovered medical expenses, major car repairs, purchases within 2 years. Right? So then there could be a short-term account. Okay, so the way that they kind of map this out is the 6 months is going to cover your emergency fund and your short term. So now that 3 to 6 months, so now we have 6 months, it's going to cover short and long term. I'm sorry, emergency and short term. So that same example, 3 months of monthly income times 6, what, 18, maybe 20 grand you have set aside? I mean, but think about that. If that was your situation and your expenses were $3,000 a month and you had $18,000 in cash sitting somewhere, aren't you a little bulletproof on the short term? What could really happen to where it knocks you completely off? Now, people lose jobs, because we're talking about not only people here, but, our clients as well. But so there's events like that that really drain this. But, man, what if they didn't have any of it? What if they had, like most people, maybe $1,000 in cash? Well, then what happens when they lose that job? Devastating, right? You've seen it, right? People lose that job and then they have to blow through their whole long-term retirement account. Maybe they had 30, 40, 50, 100,000, it's gone because of this short-term event that happened that they weren't prepared for. Is this going to happen right away where people have that 6 months? No, but this is what we can build towards. This is a part of pay yourself first. So reserve for unseen events, loss of job, disabilities, short-term purchases, car, down payment for a house, 3 to 5 years. So now there's the wealth building. So this is more long-term. These are our retirement accounts, our IRAs, our 401ks, our could be colleges in here. All right. So now what are we doing with the money in our long-term? So we're going to talk a little bit more about that because that's what we help in all the areas, but this is where we actually really make an impact is starting to invest for the long term. So again, we go back to educating people on how these concepts work. So before we even talk about mutual funds, the other basics that we really teach people is just other building blocks of the investment concept. So for example, what's a stock? We all talk about this. So what's a stock? Right, so stock is ownership in a publicly traded company. So if we have 1 share of Walmart, that's a fraction of the ownership of the company, 0.00001%, right? Because there's thousands, maybe, I don't know, maybe millions of shares, I have no idea, right? So all these shares are available, but if we have 1, it's a very small percentage of that. So let's say it's $50 per share. That means if somebody wants to buy a piece of that ownership, they would have to pay $50 to get it. But it's traded on a market, right? Just like a real estate market. So the way I explain that is, think about a house. A house, let's say it's, you're selling a house for $100,000. And if a lot of people are putting contracts onto that house, what's going to happen to the value? If a lot of people want it, the value of it is going to go up. So if there's a lot of demand for a company, maybe the company's doing well, it's very profitable, a unique product that everybody wants, and and the value of that's going to go up because everybody wants to have ownership in that. But if you go back to the house, let's say you have that house up for sale, and nobody is putting any contracts on it, nobody's putting any offers in, and let's say it's been a month or 2 months or 3 months, and you haven't gotten any hits. What are you going to have to do to start getting hits? You have to lower the price, right? So the same thing in the stock market. So if a company is not doing well and somebody's trying to sell their shares, but nobody's willing to buy it, then you're going to have to reduce the price for somebody to actually want to buy those shares, right? So that's all that's happening in the stock market. It can go up in value, it can go down, but it's based off of the demand of people that want to buy the shares of those companies. So if it was worth $50 per share, it can go up to 100. In that case, what do? We doubled our money. But what could also happen? We said it can go down. And in stock, if you own a company, what if that company goes out of business? What can happen to the value of those shares if it went out of business? It could go down to 0, right? So that's what we call risk when you're investing in the stock market. The problem with investing in the stock market is most people don't have the diversification and enough assets to be properly diversified. So to have enough assets, you have to be with Bernstein, right? You have to have $1 million. So then they can diversify you amongst a bunch of different companies and a bunch of different industries. But if you don't have that, then you can be in something called a mutual fund. So what a mutual fund does is it takes money from all these individual investors from Ian, from Jen, from Otis, from myself, and we collect millions, if not billions of dollars, and that money has a team of professional money managers that manages that. And they invest in 100 to 150 different companies. Right? So look, I mean, this is just an example, right? But we have a bunch of different companies, and you'll notice a bunch of different industries, right? So that's what we call diversification, is you're diversified amongst a bunch of different companies and industries. And think about the scenario that we kind of described before. Let's say you're in a mutual fund now, and let's say in here there's a company that goes out of business, and it's 1 out of 100 companies. So that one company goes out of business, but you have 99 other companies. So did you lose all your money now? No, because you have a lot of different other companies that you're invested in. Now let me ask you a question. Could you lose all of your money in a mutual fund?
Yeah.
You could? Okay, so it's possible. What would have to happen? What would have to be the scenario for that to happen? Every single company goes out of business at the exact same time. So we're talking about Procter & Gamble, who makes Crest, Downy, Gillette. I mean, have you ever fathomed that you've ever not used those products? Right. So they would have to go out of business. Nobody. So Disney, I mean, they're making good. I mean, if I see the Avengers trailer, and are they going out of business? No. Okay. What else? Pharmaceuticals. Are people ever going to not have any health issues where they don't need to take any medication? I saw your counter, right? So I had all those, pills and. Is that your house? I wasn't doing that one. Telecom, right? Are you ever going to not need a cell phone at this point, right? Eating, right? Technology. So every single one of those companies would have to go out of business at the exact same time. So what's the likelihood of that happening? It's very slim, right? And if that ever did happen, is your money worth anything? No. So does it matter if it's in U.S. currency? If all of these companies went out of business, if it's in cash somewhere under your bed, does it matter? Right, because that paper is not worth anything if every single one of those companies went out of business. So that is how a mutual fund works. So kind of what I probably just described. A mutual fund is an opportunity to pull your money together, managers invest, and they have, and this is just general information. Obviously, we cover all this in the ICA guide, and we explain all this as well. So there's 3 Ds of investing, right? Who's studying for their securities license? So let's talk to number 1. You're number 1, right?
Yeah.
Okay. You stay in there, right? Like, no, you're never relinquishing that title.
Yeah.
Okay. So what are the 3? What are the 3 Ds of investing? So we talked about one of them. There's one, diversification, right? All right. So, okay, what else? Okay, so Shaq mentioned that, dollar cost averaging. And then there's one more. Who else who's studying? Peter?
Whole corner right
So dollar cost averaging is one. Discipline. So what is that? So that's what time, right? So all the 3 things that we talk about in our ICA guide, but to really, in your mind, just remember it, it's the 3 Ds, right? Dollar cost averaging, discipline, diversification. give an example of, so we kind of did diversification, right? That's how we explain how a mutual fund works. So we're diversifying amongst a bunch of different companies and a bunch of different industries in a mutual fund, and it allows for us to do that without having $1 million, right? We can have $50 a month. We can have a rollover of 20, 30, 40, 50,000. But it's going to be allocated within the same proportions as if we had the $1 million. All right? So this is just the text on dollar cost averaging. Now, I don't use this to explain it, but I want you to see, just how it works and what it really means to dollar cost averaging. I'm going to show you an example, but that's not how I really explain it. I usually do a drawing out, but I'll see if I can do that with the picture that comes up later. So the 3Ds, dollar cost averaging. Investing in a certain fixed amount each month. So what you're doing is you're investing monthly a fixed amount no matter what, right? $100 a month, $300 a month. So these are our PACs. When we invest monthly, we're automatically going to be dollar cost averaging, right? So you're investing a fixed amount monthly, and it takes advantage of the market highs and lows by purchasing fewer units when the prices are high and more units when the prices are low. So use that with anything else, right? So let's say you're buying, what do you buy normally on a regular basis? This is cereal, right? So let's say you're you have a bunch of kids and you're buying a bunch of cereal, right? So if you buy it at the regular store where it's whatever $3-4 per box, you could do that. But what happens if you go to you're buying it in bulk? Right, like Costco. You can probably get it for a lower price per unit, right? Yep. So if you're investing a fixed amount towards cereal, but the price of cereal goes down in half, couldn't you buy more boxes? Right? What happens if it goes higher? With that same amount that you're allocating towards cereal, you're going to buy fewer boxes. That's what dollar cost averaging is. When the price of when the market value of the investment goes down, you're able to buy more shares of ownership in that company. When it goes up, you're going to be buying fewer shares of ownership in that company. So that's what that means. It takes advantage of market highs. So when it's at an all-time high, you're still investing monthly, but you're not buying as much. But when it goes down, you're actually stacking more of that investment. All out? All right. So let's show that example. So isn't this what people typically want to see? Yeah. They just want to see their investments do this. And then people are hesitant to see this, right? Does anybody want to see this? No. Right. So which one would you prefer? Which one would most people looking at this prefer if you're not a genius? Right. This is what people want to see, right? Let's be real. Don't you want to see your money do this? Yeah. Even now, I want to see. What are we talking about? If you have stock in Primerica, it's like, oh wow, stock is doing this, it's growing, it's right. That's what we get excited about. If it goes down, do we say, oh, let me buy more? We should be saying that. It should be. So let's not be, confusing, that we don't believe this even ourselves, right? I'm excited when I bought it at $40 and now it's $100. Even though I still have money that I invest monthly, and as far as my earnings, I set it up like that. So, and if it did do this, I would actually buy more. I'm excited when this happens because I see my account value is a lot higher than when I put the money in, right? So everybody wants this emotionally. But logically, this is what is actually good, right? And kind of a side point, that's why people need an advisor, right? Because, and even people that are in finance like us, we need somebody to talk to about our money. The reason why is because we're always emotional with our own money. but we can take the emotion out when we're talking about somebody else's money. And we can talk about the logic of it, of what they need to do, versus our own money. We get emotional about it as well, right? So in this scenario, what are we doing? We're investing $100 a month in this one, and we're investing $100 a month in this one, right? So again, how does the logic play out to where this one is actually a good situation? Because remember, can we lose all of our money in a mutual fund? I mean, is it likely to happen? No. Right. So when the market does this, and we know that that only happens every 5 to 7 years as far as a recession, most of the time it's going up, but when this happens, what's the logic behind it? So we're putting in $100. Now, this is a little convoluted when you look at it here, but just follow me here. So we're investing $100 a month. So in month 1, right, that $100 bought 10 shares. And in investor B, that same $100 bought 10 shares because they were the same price. Make sense? Mm-hmm. So now month 2, what's happening in this one? It's going up. So now it's worth $12 per share, but we're still only sending 100, right? So just like the cereal, if it's going up in price, we can't buy as many boxes. So now we can only get 8.3 shares for that same $100. But here, what happened, the value went down to $7, which means if we're still sending the same 100, we can do what? We can buy more, right? So now we bought 14 here. Here we only bought 8. Month 3, it's continuing to rise. We're still only sending the $100. So now we can only buy 7. Here it went down to 4. We can buy 25, right? Month 4, it went up to 16. Still only sending the $100 a month. We can only buy 6. Here, it went down to $2, and people would be freaking out, right? Oh my goodness, I can't believe this is happening. Let's say this is 2008, right? What did most people do? Right. You know what the Dow did? It went from 10,000 approximately down to 6. And people that didn't have somebody to talk to, what did they do when it was on? They probably didn't do it at 8, didn't do it at 7. At 6, what did they do? Like, yo, I'm going to lose all my money. And they pulled all their money out. So unsuccessful people, what do they do with their money? They pull their money out and spend it. What do successful people do? No, that's average. The average people will keep it because they know that they're doing it for long term. I'm 30, I'm 40 years old, I can't use it until 60 anyway. Average people will hold it. What do successful people do with their money? They put more money into it. What is Warren Buffett's quote? He said, when people are greedy, be fearful. When people are fearful, be greedy. And what he means is, what's happening here? What's the emotional state of people here? They're petrified, right? When people are fearful, be greedy. That's when you want to put more money in. When people are greedy, be fearful. So when are people greedy? Like 90s, right? 90s, I know some people were born in 90s, right? But what happened in the 90s, there was a huge stretch of just growth, right? And then, right before like 2000, and tech bubble, right, burst at that point. And you want to know these things even if you're young, because it makes you sound intelligent when you're talking to people about investing. So you want to know these points in history when things happen. So that's the tech bubble, right? So people were greedy at that point because everything was just making money. You put money into something.com and you made money. Whatever.com, you made money, and all those companies went out of business. So he said when people are greedy, that's when you want to be fearful. Because this is probably not going to sustain itself because these companies aren't even making money. They just put .com on a company and everybody wanted to invest in the IPO, right? So, and that just continues. But what happens here? This is a fluctuating market. In investing, what goes down comes up. It's like walking up the stairs with a yo-yo. On the short term, it's up and down, but on the long term, it's trending upward. Those phrases, those pictures that I just painted for you, those are what you want to write down. Are you using those illustrations when you're talking to people about investing? That's how you can take a concept and make it to where people understand it. It's called story selling, right? You want to tell stories, you want to give illustrations, and that's how you can make this, break it down to where people really get it and understand it. So now it goes back up to $10. So let's look at where we're at. So who has a calculator? Because I don't think this is going to calculate. So we put in $600, and we're not looking at this number. So let's say here. So it's worth $20 per share, right? So do 20 times 42. And what's the value right now? $840, which is good, right? We put in 600, it's worth $840, right? Now let's look at this one here. We have 126 shares times what? 10. So how much is it worth? So we put in 600 and it's worth 1,200. So logically, which one was better? B, right? Because we were able to accumulate more shares because we're investing the same amount monthly. So that's what dollar cost averaging is. Whatever's happening in the market, whenever you're in that accumulation phase, it doesn't really matter. Because you're able to accumulate more shares when the value goes down, and then when it inevitably goes back up, you've actually stacked some more shares, which means you have more money, right? So, like I said, I usually don't use this to describe it, but I'm using it so you guys really understand the concept. So because this would be too convoluted for a client, right? You just draw the concept out, right? And you can just use numbers like, if you drew this, like this is what most people want versus this, right? And then you may just use some basic numbers to illustrate the point. But what questions do you have about this? Right, so the way the market works, it's like walking up the stairs with a yo-yo. On the short term, it's up and down, but what's it doing? It's trending up. And the purpose is what? To get to the top of the stairs. So does it really matter what's happening with the yo-yo if you get to the top of the stairs? Right, so you're 40 years old, you want to retire at 60, right? What happens over the next 2 years, does that really matter? If at the end of the day you're at the top of the stairs? So another one I didn't say, but I'll use this a lot of times as well when talking about the diversification. I say, if you go back here, when we're talking about mutual funds, I say, okay, so you have 100 companies. When one goes out of business, did you lose all your money? No. You know what it's like? It's like if you had this, because we're usually sitting where at a table, kitchen table, right? If you had this table with 100 legs holding it up, and we knock out one of the legs, is that going to collapse? No. That's kind of how a mutual fund works. So we talked about dollar cost averaging, we talked about discipline. So now let's talk about, we talked about diversification. So now let's talk about discipline, which is what? Time. So discipline, stay focused, stay invested through all market activity. That kind of goes right along with the dollar cost averaging, right? But you're just in it for the long term. Now, in our kind of presentation, how do we explain the discipline? So I'm tying in these general concepts to how we actually present, right? So how do we talk about discipline and time? Right, to the mountain chart on the ICA guide, because we're showing the history of that mutual fund over 80-some years. And if you just are in it for the long term, what could happen? Not saying that they need to invest 80 years, because the quant example shows you a more realistic time frame. So maintain a long-term view and stay focused on your goals. So let's give a couple examples. So, and this is from the How Money Works, this example. So a one-time investment of $1,000 with a 9% return. So if we let that money just sit there, just one time, $1,000 at age 67, what would it be worth? So let's say there was somebody that just, somebody's born, they have a child. They say, you know what? I'm going to just take this $1,000 and set it aside for my child, and then they can just have it in retirement one day. So just one time of $1,000, if a family did that for their child, if Paul's parents invested when Paul was born at 67, they would have over $400,000. Isn't that crazy? Like, man, why did my parents do that? $400,000. But what if they waited until Paul was 16 years old? If they waited until Paul was 16 years old, then they would only have $96,000 by just waiting 16 years. What if they waited until Paul was 40? They would only have $11,000. So do you see why it pays to start early? So what would you rather have for your child? 400? 96 or 11? Right? So here's another example. So let's say our goal was to have $500,000 for retirement at age 67. So if anybody's 25, exactly? No. I saw the sea of people and I knew that was wrong. Who's 25? Right. So if you, at 25, invested basically $90 a month, at 67, you'd have 500 grand. $90 a month? What do you spend your money on that's $90 a month? It's just like completely irrelevant. Doesn't, like you don't even know where that money's at. Like how many things? How many drinks at the bar? You told me to do it. That's nothing, right? $90? But if we waited 10 years to 35, you would need to save more than twice the amount of money. You need to save 224. Anybody 35? So 35, right? At 45, you need to save $600 a month, more than 7 times. Look at 55. I know, very cool. 1 times more. You need to save almost $2 grand a month. to have the same $500,000, right? So, you see why it pays to start early? See why we got to get your pack set up now? See why we got to get you saving money now? So here's I think this is the last example. So, $100 a month and a 9% return. So, if we are 25 and we did $100 a month, then at 67 we'd have $566, right? If we waited 1 year, it would cost us $50,000. So this is what I explain to people. When I talk to young people, this is an example that I use. I don't use this chart, but it's the same concept. So let's say I'm recruiting someone, and they're young, and I go over some of these financial concepts, and I may even show them, oh, you're 20 years old. You know how much money that would be worth if you saved, $100 a month at 65? And let's just use this example. So let's say it's a 25-year-old. I said you would have $566,000. But you know what's funny? Sometimes I'll talk to people, and first of all, do you know where to invest your money right now to get a 9, 10, 12%? Do you know where to do that? You know how to do that? Are you doing it right now? You know how to do it? So what's the answer? No. They don't know how. They don't know where to go. Nobody would be willing to help them. So do you think it would be worth, you know what's funny? I talk to people and I go over these concepts, and then I won't hear from them again. And I'll talk to people, they don't know where to go, they don't know how to get the answers to all this, and I won't hear them again. But let's say you got smart a year later. You said, you know what, this guy, he was kind of wild and excited, he was talking about all these concepts, and I want to learn how to apply it. So a year from now, you come to me, and you say, you know what, now I want to get started. Now I want to, if nothing else, invest money. That was only $1,200 from 25 to 26, but how much did it cost you? $50,000. Wow. Right? How many $50,000 mistakes do you want to do? None? So you're going to meet me again tomorrow? Right? Because if nothing else, if all I've taught you is how to apply these financial concepts, I can make you hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. So if I can teach you how to help other people, I mean, we can conquer the world. Nobody's teaching people this. I had a guy in my office was getting recruited by a wealth management firm. He says, well, you can help families in there have $1 million. Right? We're helping everybody. We're taking all the concepts that only the wealthy are getting access to. We're giving it to everybody. How many people in your family want and need to know about this? Everybody? Your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, you know what? We should see them tomorrow. And we'll set an appointment. That's what somebody, isn't that what you guys do? I mean, there's a few people in the office that if they get a recruit today, they can get 2 or 3 apps by a month in. That's a conversation a couple of us were having, right? But it's because they have that urgency of, we got to get in front of people now. All right, so those are the concepts. So what questions or anything that we talked about or clarification or anything else you want me to go over when it comes to all this stuff? Right, and this is, you get the concept. Same point. Go ahead. If I'm recruiting a young person, I think that's the easiest thing to talk about. I'm recruiting a young person because they're not interested in talking about insurance because they may not be married or kids or anything like that. But if I can, what's your $1 million game plan? You don't have one? What if I can give you a $1 million game plan? Would you be interested? Let me show you how this works. We go over a couple investment concepts, right? So what I do is, instead of this, is that, do you have the internet?
Yeah.
I'll use, if you go to financialcalculator.org, that's kind of the financial calculator that I use because you can actually show 12%. This makes it a little bit, the numbers a little bit bigger. On our app, we can only show up to 9%. So how young person, let's say they're 20 years old, right? So if you, at 20 years old, remember how we were showing you that $200 a month example? Is that a lot of money? No? Okay. So if you really wanted to, you could save $200 a month. Okay. So if you're 20 years old, you know how much money that would be worth at 65? You don't have $1 million game plan, right? If I can show you that, you'd be interested. So let me show you this example. So $200 a month, you're 20 years old, so that would be in 45 years, right? You would have $4 million. Would you be interested in having $4 million? How many people at 65 do you know with $4 million? Want to be one? Right. So here's how I use that same example that if you waited a year. So let's say, again, and I do that whole conversation, let's say you get a year later, and that's only $2,400 if you didn't invest between now and that year. How much did it cost you? That was 4.2, now it's 3.8, it cost you $400,000. How many $400,000 mistakes do you want to make? How many can you afford to make? Right? Does that, you think somebody would be motivated if they were young to maybe learn these concepts and invest, right? So that's kind of what I use. You know what these trainings always, Shaq always talks about it. These trainings are also supposed to motivate you to invest. Because how many years have gone by and you've seen these trainings, and how many months have gone by and it's just like, you know what, I still haven't opened up my IRA. How much, we talk about the recruiter, the client, how much money do we want to, how many hundreds of thousands of dollars mistakes do we want to make ourselves, right? So it applies to us too. We got to stack our own chips, right? What else? Anything else? All right. I think that's it. So Shaquille Islam, let's give him a round of applause.
Why, when you do training, are you all trying to holler at the whole group? Back there with Ricky, just for a few minutes. Let me kind of tell you how we started the class, just so you understand the resources that are available. Look, my goal for you, okay, and my personal goal is to build a huge agency this year, right? To have double-digit licensing, okay? Have 5 to 10 people pass in a month. And so Ricky went up there, and such a professional. And the guy is so good. So he goes up and he starts teaching the class, and he just says, "Who's scheduled?" That's the first thing he said. And there's 13 people back there. We have 13. So positive is on a pretty big holiday weekend, we have 13 unlicensed people back there. Okay? That's not including the brand new guests, which is awesome. There's whatever, 5 or 10 people, but we have 13 people. The bad thing, but it was good that Ricky noticed it, and that's the first thing he opened with: who's scheduled? And 3 people raised their hand. Or 2 people raised their hand. Okay, I think 1 person didn't know if they were scheduled or not. So 2 people are scheduled right now. Okay? And then he went for a few minutes on why it's really important to schedule, and how to schedule, and who to call to schedule, and why you don't need to schedule tomorrow. You can schedule at the end of the week or this and that, and he went on basically a group close. Is that going to work? No. You have to close people. That's your job. But you have an RVP instructor who knows what he's doing. The second thing he went over was he went over all these things. I was just literally taking notes from him. He went over why getting the license is important, why it's so important just to take the exam, and then he started breaking down the questions. Little things, man. I mean, little things like, you know, he was like, look, the most, it was, for me, it was like, wow, I'm glad that we have a guy like this. He goes, when you read the question, he goes, what do you see here? And they're like, all right. He's like, what word is in all caps? And then he's like, that's the word you focus on. And then he's just breaking down the questions, and everybody's like super freaking engaged, taking notes, right? Our job, like, you know how much work it takes to do things like that? Time that we don't want to be spending doing that. And you put people in a group and they learn better, there's more synergy. You have like this new recruit freshman orientation or freshman, you know, kind of feel to it. And you guys aren't putting people in there? Stupid, right? We got to be smart. I know that it's inconvenient for people to come and train, but this is why they come. They don't come just to come. They come to learn. They come to learn one or two nuggets that are going to help them across the kitchen table build a freaking company. I mean, for me, building a life insurance business, getting them licensed is kind of important, right? You know, you know, like I said, I invest. I've done other things, other businesses here and there, right? You know, like I was in a moving business for a few years, right? You get, you know, like I'm moving on Thursday, right? So they quoted me for $1,600. Okay, I have a single-family house. I have a family of 5, and it'll be $1,600. They may charge a little bit more. Say it's $2,000. How much do you think the company's going to make on that? To hire a group of 4 people, right? If they said it's a 10-hour job, $160 an hour, four guys. You have a truck, you have gas, you have insurance, you have to pay your crew. The company might make $500, and you can go get a license, go write a sale. I mean it. Now, is it a little annoying to get a license, set an appointment, and do those things? Or you can try to hire a company, start a company, get a website, get Yelp reviews, all the things that have to happen in a normal business. Or you can hire some people and let Ricardo get them licensed for you. And you know, just like the thing about Ricky, right? I don't know how many people he actually has from his team back there, but like he's given it his all, man. Like he's like, hey man, and he said, he goes, you know, I made a goal this year. And like he was coming down on people and he goes, I made a goal this year to help this hierarchy be the #1 licensed team. He goes, how are we going to do it if you guys aren't scheduled? And like he just was coming out like, yeah, okay, Ricky. Ricky. Right? It's just, you know, what a freaking good teammate and what a good teacher. Right? What a good teacher. So you gotta, I mean, your job, and I was proud that we had 13 people there. Obviously, I'm not really ecstatic that they're not scheduled, but we'll do a better job. So anyways, I thought that was really important. So I'm going to talk a little bit about insurance really quickly. Okay, so I'm going to do it on my tablet. So I got a referral from my sister. My sister referred, I was telling you guys a little bit about this. So I sat down with somebody, my older sister, you know, who has been a client for a long time. She's a super advocate. She's been licensed. She knows what we do. Somebody approached her about getting just financial guidance, financial advice, learning about personal finance. They reached out to a financial advisor. So these things that we say on the slides are true. They're not propaganda. They're not hype. They're not manipulative ploy to manipulate, you know, to because we have an agenda. Do we have an agenda? Yes, but it's 100% true what we're saying. She goes, we reached out to a financial advisor and he made us feel a little bad because we just didn't have that much money and they had $100,000 to invest. They could write a check for $100,000. They had $60,000 on merchant fund, $36,000 in an old 401k, and in their current 401k they had another 70. So they got $175,000, but they could write, they're liquid for $100 to invest, and they said no. And then she's like, so, and your sister had told me I talked to you, and she told my sister this, and my sister told me that she was kind of like extremely discouraged with the process. She didn't even want to meet with me because she's like, he already made us feel terrible. And I didn't know, and then my sister would kind of reassure, hey, my brother's not like that. He'll listen to you. Don't worry about it. It's worth a meeting. He's not going to charge you any money. He'll come to you. It won't just be a phone call. Don't worry about that. And so then I go, and then we have to go. We still have to close business. We have to do certain things. I'm going to talk about that. But that's what's happening to families, right? So it's like, look, there's a lot of different types of clients that we sit down with. We sit down with clients, and a lot of times our clients are ignorant. Our clients are abrasive. Our clients are stupid. What I mean, they fight us. But then there are some clients that are responsible. They want to get help, and these guys are not helping them. This is a young family with a young daughter who's made some financial mistakes, wants to get better, has saved all this money. Hey, please, please, please help. No. Get out of here. Right? So this, I'm going to talk about 5-year renewable term. Okay? Because that's the insurance portion that I saw. Okay? So, we get to the family, we do data collection. The family's ready. Hey, it's a referral. It's a warm market introduction, right? From my sister, it's a hot market introduction. My sister introduces me, gives me tons of credibility. I go in there, and they ask me beforehand, what do I have ready? I have a prepared email that I send that I got from the company, right? This is what you need for your F&A, blah, blah, blah. And, I'm really looking forward to coming. And, if you don't have all the information, that's okay. We'll collect them when we're there. So we're good. She has a pile of documents. Daughter's there, very, very apologetic. And I start going through stuff, and, I start seeing some things. And we get to the insurance portion, and we go through, the house and all this stuff. And we go through, how much coverage do you have? They say $500,000. How do you, through group, but we applied for more and all these things. And then I start collecting information. So let me go through some psychology really quick, okay? And then, so you see somebody, and the wife has a $200,000 term, okay, with Lincoln. It's like $30 a month. Okay, the wife is my age, the husband is, I think, a year or two younger. So the husband, I think, is 35, and she's 36, so she's 1 year younger than me. And the husband has the maximum allowable amount of coverage through work that they had to do a medical exam for. Okay? So they had to do a medical exam. It's not just checking a box. They got the max that they could get, which is $500,000. And I asked him about the cost and this and that. He couldn't find the rate table right there, but he says it does go up. I believe it goes up every 5 years. So either I think he has annual renewable or it's 5-year renewable. He did do underwriting. You remember them coming to their medical exam. And he said right now I pay, and they have their budget, they have everything, I pay $56 a month for $500,000. He's 35, 36. Okay? So what do you see right there? Write down what you see, right? Because you got to see stuff. Right? You have to see stuff. When you see a client, you got to see stuff. And I'll talk about this more in a second, because you have to have a strategy and a technique, right? And your techniques and strategies may be a little different than mine, okay? But you still have to have one. One thing you see, Donald, what do you see? What do you notice?
It's most likely going to go up.
Okay. What do we notice about the client? It is going to go up. We know it's going to go up.
Responsible.
Huh? They're responsible. Okay? They are responsible. They have thought about this. Okay? They're not trying to do the minimum. They're not trying to skirt their responsibility. They're not saying, I have group, I'm okay. They're saying, I did a medical exam, I checked this, it looked affordable, $500,000 is a lot of money. I have protected my family, okay? That's a big difference. Like even, and I mean this, even whole life, you have to be careful, okay? You have to be careful. What did I say? Right? I go in, they are already feeling terrible, okay? They're already riddled with guilt. Do I want to make them feel bad about another decision? No. Even with whole life, you have to be careful, right? You gotta attack the whole life company. You gotta attack the agent. You can't attack them. They were responsible. They have been paying on their policy. They did understand, hey, I want to invest money, right? The physiology of whole life is a great concept. It really is. It's just a bad product. Hey, protect yourself and have some money. That is great. The problem is the insurance company took a great need and twisted it, and they're playing about owning and renting and this and that. But some of you guys, you sit down with a client, they're spending $150 a month for $200,000 in coverage. That's a freaking good client. It was a bad product and a terrible agent and a terrible company, and they don't know how to feel. They're confused. They feel responsible. They feel tricked. Now look, if you feel like, if I sit down with Miguel and Miguel's like, you know what, I got this policy, but I don't feel good about it. That's different. Then you can maybe go in a little bit more, right? But if he's like, hey, I have this and I've done a great job, and you know what, we've accumulated $21,000, and I go and say, you're an idiot, you could have had $61,000, you're not getting a client. Okay? And it's not because you don't have a better product. It's because you just went about it the wrong way, right? I had to understand that this client has done a lot of right things. And he got a cheap product, and he has a term from Lincoln. Not that that's good or bad, but they applied, they did a medical exam, and they have coverage, right? So you just got to, like, before you freaking jump down people's throat, and there is time to unload on people about certain products. And it all depends. If Miguel's looking for a reason to cancel a whole life, then I have a little bit more flexibility and freedom to destroy it. But if they're just confused and having questions, and they have repeatedly made financial mistakes, and they feel bad, and they feel like they're behind the 8 ball, you gotta tread lightly. Everybody understand that? Because if I see somebody and they have insurance, I'm like, man, they're responsible. They've done the right things. They did a medical exam. They've been paying their policy. Wow. Okay, the wife is at home, and he has a lot more than her. They've thought about this. I have thought about this. So I just have to do a better job of performing surgery, which I will do. Okay? So, he sends me a picture. They finally send me a picture, right? And this is just funny because so they send me a picture of let's see it. All right. So I'm gonna go through the numbers in detail in a minute. So this is what they have. Employee and spouse coverage semi-monthly premium. So semi-monthly is twice a month, right? So you multiply it 2, you have the monthly cost. Right? It's not bi-weekly. Bi-weekly and semi-monthly are totally different things, right? Because bi-weekly there's 26 bi-weekly periods. Semi-monthly there's 24, right? So you see it has coverage up till $100,000. Okay? If you can't see, don't worry about it. But huh? Just do it real quick. I can put it. I think that's good. Okay. So this is what they're paying. So this is what they're paying. $560 for $100,000, 28, right? All these things are manipulations from the company so you don't understand how much your rate's going to go up. That's all this stuff is. It makes it even confusing. It's like, okay, they don't have $500,000 up there. They got $100,000. They have the monthly cost per thousand. right? And it doesn't look a lot like a lot of money. So he's a normal guy. He's like, look, it's good. And look, it's 23 per hundred. It doesn't look like a lot. It's $23. And when it gets higher, it doesn't look like a lot. $14, $9. It doesn't look like a lot of money, right? So it's just it's not significant. It's insignificant. And I have protection, and this is good coverage. And I did the medical exam, and it's $500,000. That's a lot of money. So I have to destroy a couple things. So the guy makes $150 grand of income, has a non-working spouse, and a 3-year-old, right? And he's got 500 grand. So we know the baseline is he needs 1.5 million, and he does need 1.5 million. Now, can I get him there right away? Probably not. Right? Right? Like, you know, most people, they need to cut out red meat altogether. Right?
Yeah.
They need to cut out sugar. But you gotta, like, wean them off, right? Like, hey, let's substitute chicken. Let's substitute fish. And maybe you have steak once a week, right? Twice a week. Like, if I tell you, hey, you done with red meat, right? Man, you might kill yourself, right? But, because I'm like you, I eat meat like every meal. Like red meat every day, once a day. I mean, it's bad, it's terrible, right? Like Matt, like he knows how unhealthy his meat eating habit is. Like, you know you're unhealthy. Matt was like, hey, I guess they were talking to him. Well, I don't have any history of cholesterol in my family. Well, you gonna be the first. You know that that's bad when you say that. Like, that's your justification. It's like, I know I'm eating terrible, but my family history is not bad, so I'm good. Like, if you're going on genetics, you're already in trouble, right? But and I'm the same way. So I mean that like funny, right? But you gotta like walk. Well, I'm not gonna get him go for a 1.5. You need 1.5. That's what you need. Like, no, right? So I had to, so like when I went to the need, I used what we use in the presentation, right? I said, hey, do you feel, overinsured, underinsured? I said, well, I think I'm okay. Okay, yeah. I said, 500,000 is a lot of money. Yeah. I said, 500, and I repeated it, and I didn't say it like this, with this animate. I go, 500,000 is a lot of money if I gave you a check for 500,000. And like he's smart, so he started to understand what I was going to say. I said, but if you die and your income is gone permanently, and I give you a check, and your wife a check for 500,000, I didn't have the check. I just visually, she like wanted to throw that money away. It was right there. I promise you. I was like, with 500,000, if you die and your income is gone permanently, and I give you a check for 500,000, like I didn't even have to finish my sentence. She knew it's not that much money. You got a kid. You got a kid. You got a mortgage. You have somebody that doesn't work. And you make $150,000 a year. Like, you want to like squabble over $10 or $15 a month to get the proper amount of coverage. So I'm planting the seeds. I didn't go right away, but that was a really, right, you have to place doubts that, yeah, you have coverage, awesome job. It is a lot of money, but is it a lot of money? Right? Yeah, it depends on the perspective. If I give you a check right now, you both are working, $500,000, a ton of money. But you lose your husband. And he makes $150,000, that's 2 or 3 years of income. That's it. Right? So you have to just kind of tread lightly and go in and let them make the decision for themselves, okay? So when I try to So I did a spreadsheet. Now I didn't bring this to them. I showed them. I glanced at it, but I did it for me, Dante, so I could feel. Thank you. So I could feel extremely confident when talking to the client, because I know the client was extremely cost conscious because they're on one income. They have a firm budget, right? If somebody sends you a budget and they got everything, they're tight with their money. Okay, like they had everything. They had a goal, they had a budget, they had future. I said, hey, here's my budget worksheets. They go, well, we already have one. Can we send you what we have? I know that they're tight with their money. Okay? And there are clients that are like that. They're just, she hasn't worked for many, many years, probably 10 years, not 10 years, 5 years, no income, and you retire somebody, and she was working at a corporation with my sister making 6 figures. So if you retire somebody, or you go on one income, you're pretty good with your money. Right? So I just did this, right? I said, okay, so I found the cost, and this is how it goes up per month, okay? So right here, the group per month, right? So this is the current age of the husband, who that's the coverage is on, right? He's 35, and you can see here's how much it costs per month. $56, then it goes up at 40, 62, then 93, then 142, then 233, then 355, then 675, and then 70. I mean, I just put there for my knowledge. You probably not think I don't need it at 70, but 70 plus would be $1,095 a month. Okay, so I quoted him at ours, which is, you know, and then this is the annual cost. You can see it's, you know, 672, then 744, then 1116, then 1700, then 2796, and 4260, then 8100, and then obviously 13,000. That's the annual cost. Okay, and then I quoted him. He's a young guy, and I quoted him at $500,000 at $76 a month. Okay, that's our quote for a 35-year level. Okay, for a 35-year level. So I could have done a 25, I could have done a 30, I could have done a 20. Either way, it locks, right? And that cost would be significantly. I could have done a 20, and I did this. I showed him. I said, just look, I just apples to apples. I just want you to know, well, on a 20-year, we're cheaper than your 56 months. We were like 55 a month or something like that, right? But I wanted to show him the concept of the options and what you have and how this is what? A ticking time bomb. Always remember that. When you're dealing with term, or I know a couple people, T sent me an article, Louise sent me an article about a old lady, right? 97 years old that outlived her insurance, right? They had a universal life, been paying $500 a year for how many years?
88.
Huh? So 30 years, paying $500 a month, $500 a year.
Yeah.
Right. So $15,000, and now and there's a burial policy. Now she can't use it. Her policy has lapsed. Right. So you have to show them that this policy is not an option. It's not an option. Because when you need it, or if you need it, it's probably most likely not going to be there because it's unaffordable. So just because it's temporarily there doesn't serve the purpose that your life insurance policy needs, right? So our annual cost was $912. And what am I showing? It's fixed, right? Like, see, sometimes you show people, and like I said, I glance, but look at that, right? You show them all those numbers and it's fixed. It's a visual. Like, my premium is going up, right? They see a lot of numbers. My premium's not going up. Yours is going up, and it's going up rapidly. Then I showed them the delta, right? The delta is the difference, how much, the difference is between monthly and annually, right? And I showed them, and I didn't even use the 70th year. This is a sum of just from 35 to 69. So I didn't use that 12,000, which would make it even more dramatic. It's $65,000. Right? It's $65,000 that we would save them over time. Even though maybe in the beginning, they're paying more. Give me a pen. Right? Because what do we tell people, right? Lock in, right? The way your insurance works is that. That's how cost of insurance works. It's exponential. It's not this slow slope. It's flat and then it explodes, right? So lock in, sir. You might pay a little more here, but you're going to save all this. And so then I started casting doubt, right? Because he's smart. He's an engineer, right? So engineers are, what are they? They're T's, right? They're numbers, they're accuracy, they're very logical. They're thinking, hey, I might have he's saying stuff, right? And it's completely normal. He says, he's just asking. He's like, look, I may have an inheritance coming in. I said, okay, great. Tell me what you have. I start documenting. I don't say, well, do you want to make sure? No, it's okay, great. That's great. Right? I'm not trying to knock that and make him feel bad about that. Like, no. Well, you're still irresponsible. You don't have to show. Okay, tell me. Oh, that's unbelievable. Great. Tell me how much you have coming in. And then he starts backpedaling. He's like, well, should I count in my finances? I didn't say anything, right? If I push him, he's going to say no. If I say, you shouldn't count that. Well, I should. And I said, okay, great. How much is it? He's like, well, maybe I shouldn't count on that because You know, what if, and he said this, I didn't even say it. He goes, what if my parents, they get sick and then they use their assets? He's like, I was like, well, what do you feel comfortable? You know, and then he's like, well, okay, it's there, it's good to know, maybe it's gravy on top. Like, okay, that's fine. And then he's like, and we have one child, she's 3, in 30, 35 years, do you think I need it? And I said, well, you know, look, here are the, you know, usually it's when your mortgage is paid off or your youngest child is 25, and I started giving them numbers, and then they're starting to think about it. So they've already bought my product. Now it's just a matter of how long they want it, right? And I have to work them through. But the point is, right, I'm saying locking in and exploding, and I start casting doubt. How do I, and this is how you destroy term. Group term, especially annual renewable term or term. You start asking questions, right? You guys, if you've ever heard Ian Pruckner, I said, look, are you 100% that you're not going to need this insurance? Are you 100% positive? But for any reason, you wouldn't need this insurance. And say you get a 20-year in that 21st year. Or that you may not want to, you may want to keep it. Why would I want to keep it? I said, what if you become uninsurable? What if you become, what if, God forbid, you become terminal and you want to keep the insurance? You know, doesn't it make sense to have something that you can renew? Or that is level? Or something in your 50th year, you're starting to pay $350 a month. Is that something that you want to do if you're already getting treatment or something like that? I was like, look, I've just seen everything. As I said, I don't know if it'll happen. I've just seen everything. I was like, yeah, you're right. Casting doubt. Are you 100% positive? And then I explained really quickly, and I want to show you this, okay, just because this is a very good teaching tool. Will you open that door? I'm old, man. I can't do that heat. Try to do it. Oh, both of them, man. Kill me. No, Robert. Now you're making do it. Huh? You're cold. Yeah, bring it, aren't you? I wish I was like that. I was. Hot for no reason. Wake up with a fever. What's guaranteed conversion? Because I just want you to understand this a little bit for you, because a lot of us explain this to a client, but we don't really get what it means. Okay? Kayla, you know what guaranteed conversion is?
It means that when even if you have a stroke or cancer, that you can still, if you need to get more, you can still get it, and you will not be uninsured.
Right. You don't have to reprove, right? So, and Matt, you correct me if I'm wrong, but if you hold our policy for at least 5 years, you can get a 10-year policy, right? It used to be a little bit longer, but now it's just 10, or how does it work?
So if they're 70 or under, they can convert it to a 10-year term. For any of our terms, the 10, the 15, 20, all that. So it doesn't matter how long the initial one was. At the end of it, you can get a 10-year term. And I actually think it's only an end-of-term option, not holding it for 5 years.
Okay.
But as long as they're under 70, it's a 10-year, but if they're over 70, and a lot of long terms can go past 70, so you don't want to say it too much, it's just a decreasing term.
Okay, it'll stay, the premium will stay,
And I
but
think
the
they can-
face amount will decrease.
Or I think they can pay a little more, but then
That they don't have to
the base
reprove.
amount's still going to drop.
Right. Because the problem with term is in that 21st year, not with us, our renewals are very, very affordable and reasonable, right? But a normal term, the price goes from, you know, $250 a month to $3,000 a year to $40,000 a year to $3,000 a month, and then every year it goes up, right? So if you're under 70, you can get a 10-year term. When your term ends, you can get a 10-year term. You don't have to reprove. Right? And then that'll be locked for 10 years. And it doesn't matter, is it standard or can you get any rating?
No, so it's your initial rating.
So-
If you, I think preferred plus are the same. So either tobacco, standard, preferred.
Okay. So that's like, so if you got preferred, you get preferred. If you got, right? I mean, think about that. So I did it wrong with him. I just showed him this because I wanted to feel really good about owning our product. Right? I was like, look, this is not for you, because I agree. I don't think you're going to need this insurance. But this is an option you have. Because people like options. Right? People don't want to be locked into anything. They like different, okay, hey, I don't want to be forced to do something, and so they get really upset about it, right? So our cost monthly in the 69th year, I'll just use it right here though, is $609 a month. As opposed to theirs is $1,000. We still would save $6,000 a year. Right? We still, and you get that level for 10 years without proving insurability. And then I started casting doubts. I was thinking, look, you did a medical exam, and that's great. I said, but it's still tied to your group. And he's like, yeah, that's true. I haven't got my policy. And I was like, all right, well, look, find all this stuff. You sent me your rate table. Find all this stuff. I'm going to come back. When I come back, we'll really look at it. I'm going to work up some numbers. And then she texted me when he was finding it. He goes, man, we don't even have, and this is like a company, like a real company. He goes, we don't even have an HR department. He's like, so I can't find it. He's like, I don't even know who to ask. And I didn't even have to say it. Right? Like when I came back, I didn't have to say it on the phone. I'm thinking like, do you want to depend on these guys? Like they don't even have an HR company. You know, and like his wife sent me something. Hold on. Okay, here's Mike life insurance premium increases. He has 500,000 coverage, and this chart only goes to 100, but he pays $56 a month. He was not able to get his current policy. His company has no HR, so getting info is a pain. Can you figure this out for us? What do I have to say? What do I have to say? Nothing. So I have all my information. I have investments on the back, and I did the Roth IRA. She has a 401k of $36,000 that we're rolling over, and I did the whole monthly investments because they're all about that. I showed them a hypothetical that it was Growth Fund of America, AMCAP, and I think Investment Company of America, that because they have 60,000. If you put in $30,000 right now and $500 a month, because they give you a $1,000 a month commitment, in 25 years you have $4 million. I was even shocked. I was like, what? No, this is wrong. I promise. I was like, this is wrong. I was like, in 25 years you put in 30 grand and put $500 a month, $4 billion? $4 million? Then you start living on 6%. I did a 6% withdrawal, so it was like $394,000 a year in the 26th year for 50, and you still have $5 million. And I was like, look, I know this is dramatic, and then he goes, yeah, but you know what? My parents are kind of doing something like that. He's like, look, I was an only child, so I guess they could save a little bit more money, but like they've done all this stuff, and he was explaining like there are people that do things like this. They are crazy in the accumulation phase, and they pay off their real estate, they pay off their mortgage, they do all these things, and they save their money, and they're freaking crazy wealthy. And so you got to know your stuff. You have to be dramatic when you want to polarize stuff. But so these were kind of some points that I made with them. So I use lock-in, right? We all know the lock-in quote, right? Which is you want to lock in. That's a great term, lock in, right? So you may pay a little more now, but you save later, right? You do that drawing. I use banding. Right? I said, hey, I don't know if you know how life insurance companies work, but there's this concept called banding, right? You have two different policies, and all life insurance companies work like this. That's why they do want to sell bigger policies, but there's a bulk discount, right? But you're not contributing the banding because you have two different policies. So if we put you on one policy, number one, you're going to save policy fees, right? And every company, at a minimum, has policy fees from $75 to $150 a year. That's $6 to $12 a month, and you have two policies, so you're paying anywhere from an extra $150 in just fees. So we want to combine that. We want to get you the bulk discount, and you only want one policy fee. We want to lock in. You want a superior product. These are the notes I went over, and more importantly, with you and where you are, you want options, right? Yeah. That was it. I mean, it wasn't even a close. I was just taking an order. That's what I was doing. But he gave me all the information. right? It was a warm market introduction, and he knew. Now, did I have to do the work? Yeah, he wouldn't have bought because he said, he said to me before I left, because I was just like, okay. He's like, yeah, you know, I wanted to go with her company, but the amount that I wanted, the cost was just astronomical. He goes, so it just didn't make sense. So what did I do though? I sold him on a policy that's more expensive, but I got him to do it. Why? Because I didn't go on price. I went on locking in. I went on banding. I went on the benefit of an agent. I went having a great product and a great company. And so he'll pay more. And then obviously all the other things, the F&A, the investments, all those other things, right? But you gotta, like when you see term, you gotta destroy term. Because there's a couple big culprits, you know. Whole life, I think, you have to destroy whole life, okay? It's out there and all the insurance guys are selling it. But like this sneaky culprit is group insurance and term now, right? Group insurance, we got to do a better job of unloading on group insurance, and term, we back down on term. And you got to feel comfortable asking a client to pay a little more money. Because, you know, like the other client that I got this week, anybody more than 3,000 this week? See if I can get if I can sneak it in there. Get my own book. You know what I'm saying? Damn. I knew it. I was looking over it. I'm only at 2,700 anyway. But the other client that I got had a 20-year term, and they're in their 17th year, and they're 45. I mean, they're 47. They got a 20-year term when they're 30, and they still need coverage. And they looked at their policy, and in 4 years, it's going to go from whatever they were paying. They're like, yeah, well, I have a great term. It's $300 a year. For like $400,000 of coverage. And I was like, okay, well, what is it in the next year? They're like, yeah, it's like $5,000 a year. And that's the first year, and that's annual renewable every year after that. And I was like, well, see, look what happened, right? You could have got a level term, or you could have maybe got 25 or 30 years, or you could have gotten our product, where you could have got conversion, and he's got to reprove. And he's like, look, I'm really healthy, but he knows. He's like, damn, man, what should I do? I mean, I know, should I fast? I'll fast one day. Should I fast a week? Because he's 47, he's got to take a medical exam now. Imagine he has those options. Imagine you're 68, you need the insurance, or you want the insurance, and you can't get it, right? So we got to paint these pictures for clients, right? When people say they have term and they have group, you freaking got to assassin. I mean, you got to be an assassin out there. You got to freaking kill that stuff. Because the client is responsible. They went through a medical exam. They understand private insurance. Now you just have to say, hey, you own a good product. You made a good decision. Now let's make a great decision. That's my mentality. Good decision. Let's make a better one. Right? Good decision. Let's make a better one. All right. Yes.
So thank you. And then for reproving health, when someone wants to increase coverage after their term with us is over, that's when it happens.
Yeah.
Right?
You get the same face amount,
Right.
and then whatever term that's available without reproving. That's the end of term option.
That's the best.
Yeah, but if they want to increase, they can.
Yeah. And then one more question.
Sure.
On banding, so I had a client, family friend of mine, who wanted to know every single year cost. You know, like, and I didn't know about banding, so I was like, this is a lot of work. And why at like, $28 a month isn't more expensive than if you get, like, the coverage is like, at $28 a month, the coverage is less than if you paid like $30 a month.
Right.
So the banding is helpful. If you really don't understand that, it's good. It's on POL.
Yeah, and
right? It's like, that makes a lot.
Yeah, sometimes it can be like $100 to like $80. I mean, it's crazy. Like if you're at 200, 220 of coverage, you're paying $100, and 250 are at 80. So the banding is huge, right? I mean, obviously the discounts. And there's a tool on the app, right? If you're close to banding, it'll come up like an alert.
The app will tell you to band.
Yeah, the app will tell you to band, right? Which is very helpful. We didn't have any of that, right? We used to have the rate calculator when we started, right? You have to calculate a rate, you have to do multiplication and all this stuff. It was crazy. All right, so it is 11:25. We're going to take our break. We're going to do Top Gun, even though we probably already know who has it. Someone stole it from me. But we're going to do Top Gun when we get back. We had a great productive week for a lot of people. So we're going to recognize all the people when we get back. Let's set a ton of appointments. Month end is Monday at 3 a.m. Okay? So basically, so for the people like Luis and Jen and Miguel who will already be out on a Monday night anyway, God knows where. somebody out. Really sharp. You mean the bartender? Last call. I want you to say that. Yeah. All right, let's set a bunch of appointments.